Hello, my name is Kai Zai. Thank you for watching our presentation on task leadership. Our task leader's name is Kevin Marsh. He was the CEO of Scana Corporation. Scana Corporation was a power company based in South Carolina. They're providing electricity and natural gas to the people at South Carolina and its surrounding area. The company tried to build the nuclear reactors under Kevin Marsh's leadership. The nuclear project ended up in abandonment, and it was known as the Nuke Gate scandal. The reason we considered Kevin was a disruptive leader was because he displayed several toxic leadership behaviors while he was CEO at Scana. Kevin worked at Scana for over 30 years, and he was able to move up the ladder, eventually became the CEO. He was well respected among the business community and often gave presentations and speeches to local businesses. We believe Kevin used his power and charisma to convince the public and the state regulators to use Westinghouse to engineer and construct the nuclear power plant, even though Westinghouse wasn't set up to do the engineering and eventually building the reactors. We believe Kevin's behavior meets the criteria of a charismatic leader, which is a precursor to abusive leadership. As the nuclear plant construction problems mounted, Kevin tried his best to hide the actual state of the project. He and his management team prevented the release of a third-party audit report that shows damaging information on the project status. The reason he did that is to convince the regulators and the customer to continue financing the project while he was covering up the actual progress of the nuclear project. Kevin took home about $5 million in his first full years as the CEO. His compensation package has increased 22%. We believe Kevin's behavior showed that he was a leader who personalized the use of power. He used his control and charisma to benefit himself and Scana financially.
Thank you, Kai. My name is George Hanna, and I'll be discussing some of Kevin Marsh's followers in the Scana situation. According to the article by Thorogood, there are two main categories of followers when there is a destructive leader. These are colluders and conformers. Colluders are followers who assist the leader because there's something for them to personally gain. In the situation with Kevin Marsh, some of the colluders have been identified. The main one is Stephen Byrne, the Scana Executive Vice President. Byrne helped Kevin Marsh hide information and lie to regulators, investors, and in press releases. The reactors were supposed to be completed before the end of 2020 in order to receive a $1.4 billion federal tax credit, which was supposed to aid the $10 billion project. Since 2008, Byrne said that the reactors would be completed by the 2020 tax break deadline. Construction did not begin until 2012, and within 18 months, there are major delays and concerns from contractors. Byrne failed to pass those warnings on to investors and regulators. He helped to remove part of an independent report stating that the project could not be finished in the time before giving the report to major investor Santee Cooper, who held a 45% stake in the reactor. Byrne made more than $6 million in salary and bonuses while hiding that the project was crashing between 2015 and 2017. Additionally, administrators at Westinghouse Electric, the lead contractor to build the reactors, helped hide how slow the progress was on building the reactors. Conformers can have many different reasons for following destructive leaders and can be categorized. In this situation, it's difficult to put the conformers into one category based on their motivations. The two categories that fit them best are authoritarian and bystanders. Authoritarians believe in the hierarchical structure of their companies and the authority of their leaders. Bystanders are more passive and motivated by fear, usually of losing their jobs. We can see time and again that employees and contractors reported delays and concerns to their superiors, but did not go further than that. Even though investment reports and press conferences were given with false information. A belief in authority of their leaders and fear of losing their jobs probably led to none of these followers whistleblowing on the operation.
My name is Caleb Stewart, and I'm going to talk about SCANA's conducive environment for Kevin Marsh. There are numerous reasons behind the creation of a conducive environment. First being instability politically. The company had thrived on supporting politicians in their campaigns financially. It was reported that more than 1.1 million had been donated to these campaigns since the year 2000, and over 12 million to state and federal lobbyists in the past 7 years, not including money paid to political influencers and consultants to push the SCANA agenda. There were social and economic factors as well. Climate change and air pollution were becoming a high priority. The public wanted to support corporations that prioritize the environment in their daily activities. Coal-run plants did not fit this new mold, so costs were increasing. Economically, deregulation increased, which resulted in companies merging to become more impactful in the market. Fracking for natural gas was becoming more prevalent as well. This was all driving down gas pricing, which directly affected incoming revenue for SCANA. Next, SCANA failed to exhibit checks and balances. Internally, they protected Marsh and rewarded him in spite of the project being on the verge of failure. Marsh would falsely report to stockholders that everything was ahead of schedule. Despite this, SCANA paid Marsh a total of $1.4 million in bonuses for his success in the new nuclear construction project. Externally, the SCANA public relations team portrayed Marsh as a positive role model and an effective leader. People thought of Marsh as a nice guy, when in reality, he was at the forefront of fraud and misrepresentation, which cost billions of dollars of company and ratepayer money. The main perceived threat was the pending and imminent failure of the construction project. This brought stress to the company for those in the know and led to dishonest behavior and misguidance. The largest issue with the culture of values was the protection of the C-suite level employees. It seemed like the company refused to keep them accountable for poor decision-making and would have continued doing so if legal matters were not brought into the picture. Overall, SCANA had developed a conducive environment for toxic leadership.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tamika Smith-Harris, and I will be discussing SCANA's destructive outcomes. 6,000 employees left without jobs. Employees of SCANA and its subsidiaries' compensation levels maintained until at least January 2020. All non-executive employees offered severance or base pay compensation until at least July 2020. Electric customers received rate freezes until January 2021, and natural gas customers received rate freezes until November 2021. Electric customers provided more than $2 billion in refunds over a 20-year period. South Carolina gas customers received $2.5 million in bill credits over 3 years, and North Carolina gas customers received $3.75 million in bill credits over 3 years. SCANA common stock stopped trade on the New York Stock Exchange at 12.37 cents per share for shareholders. SCANA shareholders received 0.669 shares of Dominion Energy common stock. SCANA shareholders awarded $192.5 million settlement in a civil lawsuit. Kevin Marsh pled guilty to fraud charges, obtaining goods and services under false pretenses in order to pay $5 million in restitution. And he was sentenced to 2 years in Butler, North Carolina's federal prison, 3 years of probation, and ordered to pay a $200,000 fine.
Tamika, thank you for explaining the destructive outcomes of this leadership. I would like to discuss some recommendations that might have prevented a situation like this from happening. The first thing is to assess leaders independently from their companies. There should be evaluations from all angles to determine leadership strength and potential derailers for the leaders. Followers should receive training to enable them to identify toxic behaviors in their leaders and develop strategies to deal with them. Company culture audits should be undertaken. This should engage HR with the culture of the company by utilizing cross-sectional focus groups and independent parties at all levels of the company to define the current organizational culture. They could also develop a plan to transform undesirable organizational culture. The results of toxic leadership are negative. In order to incentivize leaders to avoid toxic behavior, there should be financial consequences to the leaders when the company is negatively affected. Additionally, separation between decision makers, media, and political influences would help to ensure that collusion and unethical behavior does not occur. An external governing board could help ensure that this separation occurs. Incorporating leadership training that includes examples of toxic behaviors and how to avoid them could help leaders avoid toxic behaviors. And finally, if leadership is toxic, employees need a safe way to report that behavior without fear of getting fired or blacklisted from other jobs. Providing protection for whistleblowers is essential to exposing toxic behavior in an organization. I'd like to conclude with our work cited. Thank you for your time.